11 a.m. ETOn Jan. 23. Venezuela National Assembly leader Juan Guaido took an informal oath and declared himself the country's acting president, just hours after deeming the administration of Nicolas Maduro illegitimate because of alleged irregularities in the 2018 elections. That same Wednesday, in Barquisimeto, about 220 miles to the west of the capital, León's de Caracas ballplayers debated whether to participate in the second game of their Venezuelan League Finals series against the host Cardenales de Lara, given the country's tense situation. The club decided to play, with the result being a defeat that left them in a 2-0 deficit in the series. Cardenales won 2 of the next 3 games in the capital of Caracas for their first league championship in almost 2 decades, but the political crisis surrounding the series had already left an irreparable mark. Maduro's administration broke diplomatic ties with the United States, which officially recognized Guaido as the country's leader. Major League Baseball advised club personnel to cease travel to Venezuela for any reason, due to security concerns, and on Jan. 27, as Lara was putting the finishing touches on its championship run, Barquisimeto was stripped of hosting the Caribbean Series. Panama obtained the series and its start was moved 2 days to February 4. For the second year in a row, the Caribbean Series was taken away from Venezuela because of political unrest, a strong blow for a country that follows baseball with a practically religious fervor. What follows is an account from players, fans and journalists over what they have experienced in the last few days. Play León's de Caracas pitcher talks about leaving Venezuela due to security concerns following Game 2 of the country's Winter League Championship Series. To play or not to play should the second game have been played while the country was immersed in chaos. About 850 people were detained, and at least 40 have died during demonstrations, according to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. The game took place under strict security measures inside and outside the stadium, something unusual for a championship series. Craig Stem, León's pitcher: "We really didn't want to play that game, Game 2, out of respect for the people who had died that day and were out battling for the freedom of the country, and we were trying to be respectful. That's not a secret. Obviously we ended up playing that game, but the last thing on our minds during that game was baseball. We were not worried about a baseball game, win or lose. Obviously, we want to win, but everyone had something else in the back of their mind then." Stem was one of the foreign players who left the country following Game 2. Jose Alguacil, León's bench coach: "When it comes time to play, we have to leave our problems behind. Here we are in a final series that no one expected to end this way, but everybody is doing what they can." Ildemaro Vargas, Cardenales second baseman: "We controlled what we could, which was to play ball. To each his own, we never let our guard down." Ignacio Serrano, sports journalist: "There's been a lot of pressure put on the players and the league, the teams and baseball in general, and all for a situation that, if you think you're being held hostage by some bad people, then you can't judge what's happening or the actions of others without losing sight of the fact that the whole world is living under that same circumstance." Javier Izaguirre, León's fan: "This didn't have to happen, it should have been postponed. This serious situation that we Venezuelans are going through with the shortages isn't just affect us but the players on the field as well, their families. Each baseball player that expresses himself is a magnet for harassment." Ildemaro Vargas, second baseman for the Cardenales de Lara, poses in the visiting team dugout at Caracas Stadium. Andrea Hernandez for ESPN: "Nobody is taking away our joy, although it reached its climax Jan. 23, Venezuela's social and economic crisis has been unfolding for years. Inflation rates reached 1,700,000% in 2019, and the country has one of the world's highest murder rates. The lack of security on the nation's highways and roads is alarming, and 2 of the Cardenales players, Luis Valbuena and Jose Castillo, died in a traffic accident provoked by criminals. Fans and players aren't immune to the situation. Attendance this season suffered a 60% reduction because of high ticket prices. The series final in Caracas was played to a near-empty stadium, and the Cardenales had a low-key celebration with their fans upon returning to Barquisimeto. German Pineda fan, the situation in the country has had an impact. In other words, stadiums are not full and there is more apathy in the stands. Even the start times for games have been changed because of the lack of security, so it has had an impact on the fans. We Venezuelans continue to have a passion for baseball, but we are not oblivious to the reality. It is still a final, so one has passion, but these are not the best of times. Ildemaro Vargas, it's no secret that we're suffering. All of us Venezuelans are enduring what's happening to the country. For example, it's been almost 4 years since I've seen my brothers, who left the country. I suffer, too. Chiro Zabale, Leon's fan during Game 3 in Caracas. This stadium should be much more full, but there are external factors that are hindering our normal development as fans. Still, you make an effort and try to enjoy the game. Nestor C's, concession stand worker at the Caracas Stadium. There's plenty of unrest here, a lot. And I thought there would be more people yesterday, but seeing how Caracas lost, there shouldn't be a whole lot. We used to have 8,000 show up in Caracas, and I tell you this because I've been here many years. I like baseball. I don't like to consume politics morning, afternoon and night. That has an effect on all us all, honestly. Leones del Caracas fans celebrate during Venezuela's Winter League Championship Series, which Cardenales de Lara ultimately won. Andrea Hernandez for Espen Joyce Barrios, food stand vendor who sells arepas at the Caracas Stadium. We can say that this season, compared to others in past years, has suffered 50% less attendance. For example, look at this final, and you can see that the stadium is practically empty. Craig Stem, the biggest problem I've had was the inflation. Obviously, it's easier for me because I'm an American citizen, so I have access to American money, which is great. But I still had to get it exchanged for the bolivars, Venezuelan currency. So the biggest problem would be the inflation, man. I'd transfer $100 on Monday and by Friday, that $100 might only be equivalent to $60, and I'd be counting on that money to last me a week and a half, but it would only last me a few days. Pretty much from day one, I knew it was unstable. I've just never dealt with an economy that was collapsing, you know. Carlos Odiza, fan, I invited a good friend over to the stadium today, then thought about conditions not being ideal to come over, so I understood. The country, Venezuelans, we're all awaiting change and think that maybe coming to watch a baseball game doesn't help that change. I think you can come watch baseball and still want change. Ignacio Serrano, baseball is doing its part, which is to provide employment and carry on while it can. Like the arepas vendors, the hamburger vendors, those of us who write for newspapers that are still allowed to circulate, those who write online because the papers are banned. At the end of the day, we're still trying to keep the country going. LV Mejia, stadium security official, the passion for sports is the same. What has changed is the fans' affluence. Miguel Fuin Mayor, fan, the Venezuelan is special. With or without the political, economic or social circumstances we are going through, nobody is taking away our joy. Angel Ravelo, first baseman for the Cardenales de Lara, says that politics shouldn't mix with sports. Andrea Hernandez for Espen Lara is a state of mind. ETOn Jan. 27, the Caribbean Confederation declared that Venezuela was in no shape to host the series in Barquisimeto, the home of the Cardenales, which had been preparing since November to host the event that was supposed to be played from February to 7. The site was changed to Panama, which will host the series for the first time in 60 years, from Feb 4 to 10. It marks the second consecutive series that Venezuela was set to host, as last year's Caribbean series was also moved from Barquisimeto to Guadalajara, Mexico, because of security concerns. Jose Francisco Puello Herrera, Caribbean Winter League Baseball Confederation president, it was traumatic trying to find an alternate site, but thank God it worked out. We have learned a lesson, we have more sites than what we had anticipated. Ulidzin Rivera, general manager of the Floor Foundation of Venezuela, we were going to host in Barquisimeto, after 61 years, so there was a lot of expectation in the city. We all were hedging our bets that the Caribbean series would be played in Barquisimeto and Cardenales would be champions. That is what we all wanted. However, we want to maintain the fans' joy even despite this situation. We are sorry for this decision. We wanted a showcase for everybody who would come visit. One day we hope to be able to be the hosts. Juan Coronado, digital media journalist. Under the current situation, there were no guarantees for players or teams, but we have the expectation that someday Barquisimeto will be able to host the Caribbean series. We are prepared to celebrate a series. The expectation was enormous. There was a lot of enthusiasm. We understand that the stadium had sold a lot of tickets. Unfortunately, due to the situation we are going through, it slipped out of our hands. We will have better times, that's the way it has to be. Angelo Revelo, Cardenales first baseman. Politics and sports shouldn't mix. It's a job, like any other. I'm just one more. My wife is from Barquisimeto. I've been coming here for 4 years and it's like home. It would be a shame for all those people from the state of Lara who would have wanted a series in Barquisimeto. But that's out of our hands. Marcos Grenfeld, sports journalist. I think all the positions we have seen are understandable ones. From the point of view of the fan who doesn't want a Caribbean series in Venezuela, and from the point of view of foreign players who have made it known they don't want to come to Venezuela, it's understandable because of the unsettling situation. Fernando Dia, Cardenales fan. Cardenales de Lara aren't a team from Barquisimeto. Cardenales de Lara is a state of mind. Antonio Castillo, Cardenales bullpen coach. I have conflicting emotions. I am happy we won the championship, but sad because we wanted the Caribbean series here in Barquisimeto. We will have to go to Panama. From here on out, it is all about winning. We are Venezuela and we will be ready to represent Venezuela. Marcos Grenfeld, Eric Barrientos and Alejandro Antony collaborated on this story. Read the original Spanish-language version of this story here.